We made it again.
Live.
Yeah.
Hello, YouTube. Good to see you again. It's episode 105.
Yeah.
It's episode 105 of A Week in Watches, and we are live. I don't really know what to call this episode other than it's summer, it's July. So it's,
You and I, if you've been long-time readers of Worn and Wound, listeners of the podcast, you know we go way back. And we are notorious haters of the warm weather.
Yeah.
If you're one of those people that likes the summer, you like to go to the beach, you like to be outside, you like to do all these fun things that apparently a lot of the world likes to do. Not these guys.
No, not us. This is TMI, but a doctor complimented me on my sun avoidance recently, so I was pretty proud of that.
That feels like something you put on like a dating app or something. That's really funny.
Well, as you can see, I'm joined today by Blake Mallon, CEO of Worn and Wound, co-founder. We go back like 2,000 years now, something like that. We know each other from college. This episode, we got a bunch of new releases, of course. Some really cool things have come out in the last few weeks. Some unexpected things as well. We're going to have a live reaction at one point from Blake of one of these new watches. I've had the chance to see it. I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with schmooter.
What could it be?
What could it be? We'll also talk with Zach Zan about some pieces. And I just want to encourage you, if you're here, we're going to be taking questions along the way. So anything we're talking about that you want to chime in about, let us know. And we'll try and address your questions.
Yeah.
All right. So as a tradition, this episode is brought to you by the Windup Watch Shop.
It is.
It is.
Wow.
You're very involved with the shop, particularly with the showroom aspect of it. So would you like to tell our lovely viewers about the showroom right now?
Yeah, so we opened the showroom in October of last year. If you have ever been or you haven't, basically it's sort of a portioned off part of where we work every day. So just beyond the walls of the showroom is Zach's and I's office and the desks of all the people that make Worn and Wound happen. It's basically a physical manifestation of what the Windup Watch Shop is. So when you walk in, you get sort of a taste of things to come with a smaller room that's sort of focused on more gear, less watches. And then in the main room, you have a pretty wide selection of watches at this point, from brands as mainstream as Citizen all the way to independent brands like we have robot watches here right now, Louis Erard. We've really been focusing a lot on bringing in these smaller independent brands that you really can't see anywhere else. And so we have a number of them on display at the showroom right now, and they've done really well. So
it's a great way to just come by, check out those watches. It's sort of like a little bit of the Windup Watch Fair sort of spirit, but in our office itself. Obviously working with brands that we really admire. And we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 12 to 6 now. You can just come on in.
Yeah, come on in. No appointment required. You still can make a virtual consultation through our website if you're not local to Brooklyn. But if you're local to New York, you should definitely come by. Everybody who comes by seems to have a pretty good experience. It's very much like, we hear a lot, it's the like non-AD AD. We are an authorized dealer, but it does not feel that way when you come to the showroom. And if you walk in and just kind of scream like, Zach, he'll probably hear you, and then he'll come say hi.
I'll come running because I'll think something is wrong. But I think our approach is that neither of us really shop at ADs, so we don't really know what you're supposed to do, which is perfect because we only hear bad things. So.
Yeah, we try to keep things as laid back as humanly possible.
For sure. Yeah. I realized I skipped something. You should do a wrist check.
Oh, yeah. And actually, we have a question about the showroom, which I think is really good. Skylar's asking, can content creators come and film in the showroom? Yes, absolutely. In fact, we just built out sort of a lounge area adjacent to the showroom that we open up for special events. And if you want to come by and shoot some content, we'd love to host you and sort of set you up and do whatever you need to do. That's a great idea. And we'd love to have you. Yeah, just maybe if you want to settle in for a little while and record some stuff, give us a heads up.
Yeah.
But even if you don't, we'd love to have you, and you're welcome to check stuff out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
All right,
Sorry.
should we move on to the wrist check?
Yeah, sorry.
So, no, of course. So what watch are you wearing today, bud?
Yeah, so I'm actually wearing an Arkin watch that you picked up on my behalf in London or
No,
Geneva?
in Geneva.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the speakeasy watches,
Yeah.
so you can only get them in person.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're supposed to show them, so there's like a very quick...
I think you can show them.
Yeah, they're very cool. It's I think they're out in the open, so
Yeah.
Ken's understanding that people are going to talk about them and whatnot, but it's just a really cool sort of matte olive green version of their watch, and I love it. I wear it all the time. I officially put my first scuff into into the coating, and it held up pretty well. I whacked it pretty good, and it still looks pretty good. So yeah, I love this watch.
Nice. Yeah, we both picked them up. I think there's been like the amount of time you and I have talked about wanting to make like a green ceramic or green Cerakote watch is, I mean, probably a decade. I think there used to be, was it Detroit Watchworks? I think we used to like modify Seikos with Cerakotes. Like before anybody was talking about Cerakote, like before we even started Worn Wound.
Yeah.
And we were always like really into that, but then like no brand wanted to work with us on it.
No.
Ever. But now it's becoming more of a thing. And yeah, we saw these. So this is the Vancouver/Geneva Speakeasy edition.
Cool.
So people who were at the Vancouver watch show a couple months ago also had access to the green one.
Yeah, it's really funny. This summer so far, I've been like really leaning into like black PVD and darker watches. I've been wearing our DS30 a bunch. I've been wearing this, which is sort of, I think of it in the same family. Like, I don't know why. It's like gone dark. As things got sunny, just like my heart.
Yeah.
Dark.
Recede into the shadows.
Yeah. What do you? That's a pretty boring.
Yeah, this is pretty boring. Yeah. We're live, and this is not a boring watch. I'm very excited to have this watch. This is a Garrick Regulator Mark II. So if you're not familiar with Garrick, they're a British watch brand that focuses on handmade watches. So they really do just about the most hand making you can get in a watch at the price point. And I think in terms of the UK, it would be like them and then Roger Smith and like Frogstrom, or one of those brands that makes like a watch a year kind of a thing. So I actually ordered this like 13 months ago, something like that, originally for my 40th birthday. But I bought it way too close to my 40th birthday. If you want to get a bespoke watch, here's a tip: do it like a year in advance.
Yeah.
Things you learn along the way.
Something seems really silly though about being like, I just turned 39. I'm gonna buy myself this fancy thing.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. So I got my 40th self-gifted birthday present after my 41st birthday, but it's everything I wanted. So I designed it myself. I redesigned the indices. I chose every detail on it. I mean, it's like 100% like handmade in some way. Everything's hand finished and just a really exceptional, beautiful watch. So very cool. If you're into that kind of thing, I highly recommend looking at Garrick.
No, it's super cool. I feel also like over the last several years, maybe with I don't know what you got first. If you got your Breguet first or the Bel Canto came first. But like I feel like generally speaking, you've moved in this direction of like more of like hot horology, more ornate traditional watchmaking design. And I feel like this is, obviously not going to be the last watch of that style you purchase, but like it feels like a little bit of like a culmination of that like transition into liking that kind of watch,
Yeah, for sure. And I think I have moved definitely more towards the traditional side of things, but I think I've also been able to find, I mean, the Breguet tradition is a good example. It's traditional, but it's also very kind of avant-garde looking, so it's not like a stuffy kind of watch. And I feel like this is sort of the same way. It's much more of a contemporary type of watch. Yeah, I think this is sort of a culmination of getting the handcraft aspect of it. I don't know if I can be patient for like 13 months again. Which is honestly kind of short for some of these brands. So I mean, you can wait like multiple years for a watch from some indies. But yeah, I also need to stop buying watches. This is the other thing. This is for me. This is going to mark an end for a time. Because I have a lot of really, really nice watches. They're like a collection that is well beyond what I think I would have expected myself to have at this point. And now I have to enjoy it.
Famous words that I've heard before.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
And also it's cool that you work with that brand, because I remember we got to meet David from Garrick, I'm sorry, I don't know David's last name off the top of my head, but he's one half of Garrick, correct?
Yeah.
And we got to spend some time with him when we were out in London for the British Watchmakers Day, the first one. We did a meetup actually with Arkin, funny full circle. And, I think from the outside looking in, you get an expectation of the types of people who are involved in these brands that are sort of high end and fancy and ornate, and you kind of expect them to be that way. And then you meet people like David and so many others in the watch industry who are just like as normal and down to earth and like chill of a person as it gets. I talked to him about like UFC and Ultimate Fighting for a really long time. Like, it's just so cool to meet people like that and realize like you're normal. Whereas I think the image of a lot of that side of the industry is like anything but, so.
They're the least pretentious people in the watch industry. Very good beer drinkers as well. I think they'll take that credit. And it's Dave Brailsford. And then Simon, whose last name I don't recall, but Simon's like the watchmaking side, David's like the business side.
Yeah.
And he like walks you through the process. Like our WhatsApp chat from the last year is like thousands of messages.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
They hold your hand.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, should we actually talk about news and things?
If you want to.
All right. Well, the first big piece of news is focused on us again, and that's just that Windup Watch Fair Chicago is happening next week, which is kind of nuts. What's new this year in Chicago?
Yeah, so a lot's new. We have some new brands. We have a new lead sponsor. Atelier Wen has come to Windup in the past of late, but has never been a lead sponsor before. And we're also really excited. G-Shock Casio is sort of taking a different approach this year, and they're leaning into Casio, which is really exciting. I think it's it's obviously a more affordable side to the business, and it's not something I think they focus on a lot at events, so we're excited that they're going to be doing it at Windup because I know it's like a fan favorite and all that kind of a thing.
They also recently made a push into mechanical watches, which I think was pretty unexpected.
Yeah. So I would be surprised if they didn't have that kind of stuff there as well. Bulova is going to be there, as they are at many Windups, and they're going to continue their celebration of 150 and the 10 year of Windup. And there will be a special edition Bulova snorkel available at the show. So that's really exciting. Like, those always seem to sell out right away.
It's a cool looking one.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I personally like it.
You'll see it at the show. I don't want to spoil what it looks like, but it pulls design elements from an iconic Chicago landmark. So, and then I'm really excited. CD Peacock's going to be there. So CD Peacock is a major jeweler in the Chicago area, and they're bringing a collection of brands with them to the show that we've never had at the show before, and I think people are going to be really excited. So Tudor, they're going to be representing Tudor, which is great. Tag, I really hope they have the F1s there.
Oh, I mean, they got it.
They have to. I mean, but I'm so excited to see those in person because I wasn't in Geneva. I never got a chance to go hands-on, and like they're on the list of watches that I'm like seriously interested in. Longines and Bell and Ross. So that's just like a group of brands that I think that we would have loved to have had at Windup at any time, and so it's exciting that they're all showing up at once. And I think that the folks at CD Peacock are going to have a really good experience with them. So, and a number of other brands, a lot of the ones that you are used to seeing at the show, and some new faces. But it's going to be a really good show with a lot of cool stuff. Benris will be there with their new watches. They've sort of gone through a whole rebrand and new iteration of the business, and their new watches are really cool. So I'm excited for it. It should be a good time.
Yeah, for sure. Chicago's always a great show.
Yeah.
I hope the weather behaves. I feel like it's going to be cooler. What it looks like it's going to be cooling off a little bit next week.
Yeah.
It's been miserable in New York City, at least. So.
Yeah, this time of year, it's always fun to like fly through the Midwest, and it's like, will you be trapped in a lightning storm of electric chaos, or will you, make it there? We'll see.
Celeste is an interesting watch company. So not one, we knew about. They reached out. It's a women-owned watch brand, and they do a lot of really cool craft. I think this is a kind of brand that people are going to be really surprised and excited to see in person, because they're doing stuff that, it's like, it's métier d'art kind of things, like, you see these dials with inlaid pieces on them, but a lot of it's very custom, and it has a very, there's a very authentic element to them.
Mm-hmm.
They do have some engine turn dials as well. I saw they worked with an engine turner in the US somewhere. So yeah, just like a very unexpected brand. I'm excited to have them there. I think they'll have a really interesting experience interacting with the hardcore watch enthusiast community, and they'll probably learn a lot about like what our kind of audience looks for in this type of thing. Which is great, because I mean, this in the US is super exciting.
Yeah, and I think it's always interesting having brands like this that are maybe like a little bit outside the wheelhouse of what like you typically might find on Worn and Wound or at Windup or whatever the case may be, because they learn a lot about the enthusiast market, but then I think also sometimes we learn a lot about who's showing up to Windup, because we've had it happen before where brands may have come and we're like, we don't know what kind of fit this is going to be, and we're like, oh, there was an audience for this, we didn't know. It's a good thing that they came. So yeah, I'm excited for them to be there. Yeah,
for sure.
Windup.
Well, excellent. We hope to see you there. Let us know if you're coming. It is July 11th through 13th, so it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. See the times now, 12 to 6 every day but Sunday, which is 12 to 5. Venue West in Chicago, same place it's been the last several years. Yeah, come on by.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Cool.
All right, excellent. Should we move to the first new release? Here we have the SpaceOne World Timer. This was one of those like best kept secrets / like a thing that everyone knew was coming, because Guillaume from the brand kind of showed it to everyone, but then was like, it's embargoed, don't talk about it, and then showed it to everyone. So SpaceOne has over the last couple of years really come out swinging. So they did their jump hour, but I'm gonna take a step back. So this brand is Guillaume Ledet, who is from Nevada Grenchen, from Vulcane, part of the Mont Richard group, well-known character in the independent watch world, and teamed up with Theo Offray, who is a very, very, very high-end indie. So he makes a handful of watches a year, the true like bespoke, six-figure type watch kind of a thing. So they work together, and Theo designs the modules and the complications for these. So you have this like great, brilliant watchmaker working on these much more affordable watches and sort of bringing, his skills to it. And so you had a jump hour with the first watch, and then the second watch was a tellurium, which I think everyone probably has seen. It has an Earth on it that has a moon revolving around it. Completely insane watch. After seeing this, I was wondering, like, how do you follow up something like this? Because this is really like, it's a totally insane watch visually, but also functionally. And what they did was actually, I think, take a step back in terms of like the concept. So it's a world timer now, but then they went way out in terms of the design. And I think so far this might be their most successful piece. So it's a world timer with a rotating hour. It's kind of like a regulator world timer. You have the hour down there at 6. You have the minute on the side at right. They're not jumping, they're rotating. So you kind of like align it by those little pointers. The seconds is in the center of the minute. So that's just sort of a rotating disc. And then on the left side, you have a world time, basically area. So that's a 24-hour rotating time. And then you can set the bezel around it so that you can align. World timer is always a little confusing, but when you see it in action, it's very simple to use. All works through the crown. Just insane, absolutely insane. And this is 2,700 euros, so that's over 3K right now. But that's still, this is, put a different name on it, put a different attitude behind it. You have a $15,000 watch. You know what I mean? Grade 5 titanium as well. So.
Yeah, no, those are super cool. I think. To my taste, like these watches can be so hard to make like remotely wearable. It's almost like, that's cool in concept, and put that on your wrist and you're gonna look like a maniac in public or whatever. But this one's still out there, but it looks great on the wrist. They're gonna be in Chicago. I'm curious if they're gonna have samples of this. I know they're sold out of the black one, at least they say that on their site.
I'm sure they will. I have tried it on, and despite it being a very irregular watch, does not wear it wouldn't be difficult to wear. It's not like a subtle watch, but it's just absolutely wild. It just has that real exotic high-end indie look, an affordable price, but not in like a fake way. Like it really is that watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The base movement in there is a SoProd, so you still have like a a high quality Swiss made automatic in the base too. If that's what you're looking for. So yeah, this was really exciting. Like I said, like we had to like hold our tongues because I had like photos of it from Geneva, but then Guillaume was showing it to everyone, but we held the embargo,
Did you see all the colors? Is it blue?
I think I just saw the titanium one when I first saw it. But yeah, they'll have the blue, black, and just raw titanium.
Yeah, the blue is really cool too.
Yeah.
It's almost like, do you go blue just to like go over the top, you know what I mean? Or do you go with something a little bit more subtle? Interesting.
I mean, subtle. What is subtle?
It's true.
Actually, I guess the all black one is sort of the most subtle because
That's what I mean. Like,
yeah. Well, it's sold out, so too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll never travel the world now.
Yeah. I'm like, actually, I'm kind of curious if you're listening to this, like, what do you think of this? Like as somebody who maybe is as a customer for watches, like a collector, when you see something like this come out, like, does it make you stop in your tracks? You have to reconsider the watches you might buy, or is this just like, that's cool, but maybe a little too weird for me. I'll see where they go next, kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would love for people to jump in the chat and say like what they think of this kind of a watch. For me, I think part of what not put me off, but sort of I look past a lot of watches of this style previously is they're just usually priced so insane. I mean, it's like, yeah, that's cool, but that's like an uber rich person's toy.
Yeah.
And like certainly, what is it, 3,700 euros around there, or 2,700?
2,700 euros. So,
yeah. That's not nothing. That's, a car, but is obviously much more approachable. And I think if you're really into the hobby, this is the kind of thing you could save up for. And like, yeah, it feels way more approachable. And I think certainly over time we started getting like, I remember like the 7 Fridays and like some watches that I think were trying to like replicate that aesthetic, but not, the technology behind it. So seeing it sort of all put together in an approachable package is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still just super excited that brands are at a point now where they can be making complications and modules for more affordable movements. I mean, that was always sort of like the biggest difference between what was possible in the micro brand world and indie brand world, and at an affordable price point, and and what was next. And now it's not. I think the factories, the development has just gotten to a point where they can do it relatively affordably. I mean, actually, the watch you're wearing, the Arkin, I mean, that's a good, that's a sub $1,000 watch with a bespoke complication on it, which is crazy.
Yeah, Skylar jumped to the comments just saying that it's really cool and he appreciates the design, but it's probably just too much for him.
Yeah.
Which I think is like very much how a lot of people are going to probably feel about these kinds of watches, but it's cool to think that, but it is something that you could actually purchase. That you could actually own. Yeah. Also, just want to give a shout out to Lou, who said he's going to be coming to Windup Chicago. He says, I told my wife that we were going to Chicago for her birthday, but she knows the truth, which is good.
I like that.
Yeah, we've said this before. We've definitely had people come to Windups in the past under like dubious reasoning with their families. So it's best to be honest with your partner. So we've gone 23 minutes into the live stream and only gotten through one story. So I think maybe let's rapid fire through some stuff. Get Zach Kazan on.
So let's do the next one. And we'll make this pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then we'll have Zach at around 5:30.
Yeah.
So this is the De Rijk & Co. Miffy Moon Phase. I feel like you said the other day you really like this watch.
I love this and I love the other ones they did. Yeah.
So I'll just give you a quick intro to the brand, De Rijk & Co. They've been around for a little while. I actually reviewed their first watch several years ago. The concept for this watch is that it's a driving watch, and it has a very unique case design. So as you can see, the crown is up there. You can actually kind of pull the crown and the whole mid-case dial and everything will move. And it moves in increments, so you can effectively like turn the whole dial of the watch to match the angle of your wrist while you're driving. At least that was the initial concept, and from there, it's gone really interesting different places, including this collaboration with Miffy, which not something we were popular in the U.S. I wasn't really aware of it, but a big Dutch children's book character that was from the 1950s, which I think maybe it's like Winnie the Pooh there. Or something.
Yeah.
So you like this one a lot?
Yeah, I mean, not for the connection to what is it, Miffy?
Miffy,
Not for the connection there, but just for the design. I love the other moon phase they did. Yeah, I just think it's great. I love really kind of bold, kind of colorful. I know this is obviously an all-white watch, but there's just something very kind of punchy about it that I like a lot. I really like it.
It's cute. And so this one's in white ceramics, his first ceramic watch, and it's going to mark the end of the Miffy series, I believe. What I like about the use of ceramic here with the Miffy aspect, it's like it looks very synthetic in a way, like it like in a good way though. Like if it had been plastic, it also would have looked like that, and it kind of works for it because it makes the cartooniness really pop. Like it looks cell shaded or something. Which is just a very very cool.
Have they done Miffy moon phases?
I honestly don't recall.
Okay.
It's possible, certainly.
Yeah, I know. I feel like they've done a few. I want to go to their website because I feel like they've done a few special editions in the past, and they just don't stick around. But yeah, I remember when you reviewed this driving watch too. Sort of similarly, you can move the crown.
Yeah, they based their whole line on this, and then kind of expanded in dials and things. Like they actually did these beautiful enamel dials that they had at Windup Watch Fair New York last year, which might still be available. Yeah, those the Guy Allen watches. One of the watches that like I've thought about a lot since. Absolutely beautiful, and not something I would have expected to really like just based on my taste, but incredibly beautiful in person. So yeah, just pursuing these other avenues with the design, but keeping that vehicle aspect to it.
No,
the rotating case, which is super cool.
Yeah.
That watch is priced at 3,950 euros, which is currently about 4,650 USD. Oh wait, that is not correct.
That's the enamel.
Oh, that's the enamel. Hey, look at that. I got it wrong. So it's 1,975. That's way better.
Yeah.
So that's probably like 2,500 or something in that range.
Also sold out.
Also sold out, yeah. Miffy's really popular.
Yeah. You really got to act fast these days to get some of these cool watches. It's too bad.
Yeah.
I saw that, this is a total aside, but I always like watching the stuff that Studio Underdog puts out, so that they do some cool like behind the scenes stuff on social media. And I think with their latest drop, I think it was the one where they released like a version of a copy that someone had made of their watch. They just did an ordering window, which I think is a good idea, and I hope that brands sort of consider doing that more moving forward. I know plenty of brands do, but that way everybody who wants one can get one, and so on.
I think you have to reach a critical mass to sort of do that, which obviously Studio Underdog is like one of the most popular brands that's ever come out, like an insanely popular brand.
I think that over the several day window they opened, they sold north of 5,000 watches, which is incredibly impressive, makes me feel wholly inadequate as a business owner. And it's just great. That's wild. Yeah. That's wild. Because they're also not like the cheapest watches in the world. They're not several $1,000s, but they're not, they're not $20. So
yeah, they're not $200,
Yeah.
I mean, it's anything is expensive, it's saying $200, but it's 5,000. The demand being that big is really kind of incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's someone should really write a story about these micro brands that just have become these like behemoths. You have them, and you have Brew and Baltic, and it's just it's really wild to see what those brands have become.
Yeah, the micro brands that have turned the corner into mass appeal, something like that. I mean, you have whatever. We should save it for the article. We have 30 seconds. Exactly. But Brew just does these pop-up shops in New York City. Yeah. I know they were super successful for him. That's on the street in New York City. That's a pretty good litmus test of your brand's popularity, and if it has like mass appeal. Like Baltic has showrooms and things too. So yeah.
No, it's super impressive. But more importantly, we have the star guest of the show, Zach Kazan, on. Let me see if I can get him up on the screen. Zach Kazan, there you are. Can you hear us?
I can, yeah. Can you hear me? I heard you say star guest. Wow, my ego doesn't need this, but thank you.
Yeah, definitely not.
No.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for Fourth of July weekend. I'm excited for Windup. Yeah, things are.
You notoriously go crazy on 4th of July weekend. You're a big Independence head.
I love just setting fireworks all over town. That's
Yeah.
sort of my yeah.
Fair
If I
enough.
haven't
It's always
lost a finger by the end of the weekend, it's a failure.
yeah, it's always a weekend of terror in my household because we have many animals, including dogs and cats, and they don't like fireworks
No.
at all.
There's
So,
like notoriously a lot of animals run away on July 4th.
oh really?
Yeah, because they get scared.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Wow.
The fireworks are also fun.
Star guest Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Zach, before we get into some of the content we wanted to discuss, what watch are you wearing?
I'm wearing the Ming today, the Uni diver. It's
Excellent.
like I think maybe like the most comfortable watch I have right now. Like it's really just very easy to wear. I found myself going for it quite a bit. I think it'll be kind of like the watch of the summer for me.
Yeah. I feel like you guys have gone Ming crazy. You know,
We
they've been
both
around
got-
for a while, and all of a sudden I'm seeing them all over the office, and
We both got the Ming bug.
yeah.
If you see me adjusting this, it's just because this thing does not want to stay in my ear.
You gotta just
Excuse
whack
me.
it in there,
Yeah.
really push it as hard as humanly possible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like there weren't a lot of Mings around, now there are Mings around, and they really are exceptional watches. Like, the design, particularly the lug design, has just like never personally been for me, so like I don't think about them a ton, but seeing them in person, you're just like, oh yeah, they have really figured something out.
Yeah,
They're super cool.
They've had a number of like interesting releases recently, which I think kind of like contributes to why you're seeing so many like Mings around.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just really enjoy the watch.
Do you think that, I don't know why you guys would know this, but do you expect that they will ever make like a drastic departure from the design language that they're using? Because, I mean, it's nice that it's consistent and that it's a very strong brand, but like also things feel very kind of like similar to some extent. Do you anticipate them kind of going out there, or would you want them to? Would you want them to like really mix things up at any point?
I mean, we got a little preview of like the next iteration of their, case design when we saw them in Geneva in the spring, and I wouldn't call it like a radical departure, but I think that it's like different enough that people will notice. I don't want to say too much because I don't know exactly when it'll launch. Obviously, it was like they do that. Like periodically they introduce like a new style of case. Like the current case is not exactly the same style as the the original case design. So I think like kind of like incremental changes can be expected, but I don't know that they would ever like completely like start from scratch or do something dramatically different.
I feel like if they did, it would be like as radical of a departure as you could possibly be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they made their own signature language with the current version. So now you can recognize a Ming from like across the street. And the next one wouldn't be like a return to something more simple. It would be, I think, far more radical.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would also be very challenging to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting.
I feel like they do the radical things with their dial design has really there's a lot of experimentation there, and I think that's sort of
Yeah.
the playground for like their most creative ideas is the like the way that they make and like conceive of dials.
Yeah. Want to jump into the stories?
Yeah, let's do it. So, Zach, the other day we had a group editorial piece called Our Favorite Quartz Watches. We both contributed to this. This was your idea. Why did we do this?
Well, I think that we've done similar articles in the past. We just sort of like check in on like everyone's thoughts on quartz watches. I think it's easy to like to forget like that quartz exists. In a sometimes as we're we're talking about like Mings that cost like $30,000 or $40,000 or something at the high end. It's nice to sort of like take a step back and remind yourself that like there's this world of like accessible quartz watches out there that are no less interesting from an enthusiast perspective. And there's a lot of really great history with quartz watches that I think is important to shine a light on. And there's a ton of variety too with quartz, and that's the thing that I've always found most interesting about quartz watches is that it's there's so much to kind of like pick from. Like every style of watch you can imagine has been made in quartz. It's a way to kind of like try different styles of watches that you might not you might not otherwise think to try. And there's just a lot of cool technology with it too. There's like very high end, sort of like experimental, sort of like executions of quartz timekeeping that I think are like interesting to consider if you're a watch enthusiast.
Yeah, yeah. We're just sort of paging through the article, and it kind of ranges from your Seiko Kinetic to a tag. Is that a tag? Yeah. Which I'm imagining is like a little bit on the pricier side.
Yeah, that
compared to
one
the
I think
others.
is Alec Dent picked that one. That's a solar powered Tag Heuer. Tag makes like an automatic version of of that watch, and a quartz version. So it's an example of a large brand kind of like offering choice at different price points for a very similar watch, quartz and mechanical.
Yeah, it's great to see some digital in here, of course, as well. I mean, the Bulova, I forgot about this watch, to be honest.
Yeah.
It had its moment, then kind of settled down. It's cool to see it again.
Yeah, we had a event at the showroom the other night, and that's one of the watches that someone like called out very quickly. Someone who I can't remember who it was, if they were a diehard watch person or sort of new to watches, but I think they were either reminded of or they discovered this watch for the first time, and they thought it was really, really cool. Which it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Some vintage quartz. I guess I sort of had a vintage quartz with my Kinetic. One thing that's actually lacking from here, which I thought was interesting, was that there was no HAQ in here, so no high accuracy quartz. Grand Seiko, Citizen are kind of the obvious contenders there, but there are Swiss ones as well. The Citizen EcoDrive ones, which are also perpetual calendars, are like super cool. I was thinking about making that my choice, but I had that watch sitting there, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you picked the Kinetic watch. That was I think that's the right choice. It got some comments down on the bottom there. People have strong opinions about that watch. Yeah.
I haven't looked. I'll have to take a peek.
And it's a good opportunity for you to express your admiration for Jay Leno that you have. You're such a big Leno head.
I mean, nothing against Jay Leno, but I honestly didn't know that when I was like looking for him, picking one up. Once again, nothing wrong with that, but that's absolutely not why I like that watch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, super cool. It's always interesting to see like the cool quartz stuff that people are doing and have done, I suppose, in the case of the vintage ones.
Should we jump over to the next piece?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. This is a super cool one, part of a series by Andrew Cantor called The Greatest Collectors of All Time. I'm really glad you chose this one to talk about because he's a Breguet collector. Zach, can you tell us about Sir David Lionel Solomons?
So this is a man who collected a lot of Breguet watches in his lifetime. And actually, if you look at the dates, that Andrew kind of lays out in his article, he collected a lot of watches in like a pretty short period of time, kind of like near the like towards the end of his life, actually. But he was just a very enthusiastic collector of Breguet watches. And there's a couple of things about this article, and Andrew does such a good job with these articles. They're incredibly well researched, and he's so knowledgeable about like this period in watchmaking history. But he discusses the Marie Antoinette Breguet in particular, and spends a lot of time on that, which is a watch that this gentleman personally owned. And it's just kind of crazy to imagine that watch being owned by one person. This is a watch that's estimated to be worth $100 million in today's money. A watch that was commissioned for Marie Antoinette with essentially a blank check, money no object, every complication that exists, put it into this watch. Marie Antoinette passed away before the watch was completed. Um, and then the watch was stolen. It was in a museum for a period of time and was part of a theft where many of these Breguet watches were stolen and then later found, which I did not know about before reading this article that Andrew wrote. It's just a really fascinating story. It seems like something that like HBO should make like a limited series or something about like the theft of these watches and just sort of like the story of these watches, because there's a lot of drama there. And I was very lucky to see this watch in the British Museum this past spring. There's a Marie Antoinette exhibit at the Science Museum, kind of like the science of, or not a Marie Antoinette exhibit. Refresh my memory. Her like estate, the French. It's on tip of my tongue. Like it was like the science behind behind that property, and the watch was part of that story. So yeah, it's just there. It was just there. Like in a vitrine. It's very impressive in person. I really enjoyed that article that Andrew wrote. It's great.
I love the part about how Solomon's found the watch in the first place. He's like walking down the street on a rainy day and just saw it sitting in the window of a store and like haggled a little bit and got the most important piece of horology ever. Not ever, but one of, certainly.
It's up there for sure.
Yeah, totally insane.
Versailles, of course, is the name of the...
Yes.
So it was a really great exhibit on the science of Versailles. So and the watch is part of that. But yeah, no, he bargained for this watch the same way that like we all do on Reddit.
Just like that.
Exactly like that. Yeah.
This is a very timely article because it is the 250th anniversary of Breguet brand. So they've been coming out with a lot of watches. I don't know if they're going to do like a new Marie Antoinette. That'd be a real feather in their cap for the 250th year, but that'd be insane. Some cool pieces though thus far.
For sure.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on Breguet, Blake?
My feelings are almost too complicated to express in this format. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a brand that I didn't really think, and I don't think about a lot of brands very often, but again, we were talking about kind of your evolution into these more haute horology, traditional looking watches, and getting to see them in person and sort of spend time with them. Anytime that happens, you sort of start to appreciate how they fit into to your daily life and how they look when you're actually wearing them, when they're not just like objects on a website or whatever. And I really like the Breguet you have. There's a white gold version, is that right?
Yeah, there's
a bunch of versions, but a buddy of ours has the white gold version. I really like that one. It kind of tones down the opulence of it a little bit.
Yeah.
It makes it feel, kind of like the Garrick that you got. Like, it's obviously a very sophisticated watch, but it feels a little bit more wearable and more like industrial,
for sure.
which I like a lot. And I really liked when we went to the British Watchmakers Day a couple years ago, we went to the Science Museum and saw an exhibit, the Breguet exhibit that was there. Was it Breguet?
There was a Breguet section. It was just sort of their horology section, which is where we met Andrew, because he was the curator, docent of the area.
Yeah,
Very nice.
But that was really fascinating, and talking about like, these kinds of the stories of these watches being dramatic and like being able to make a movie about it, like. Just really understanding the history of watchmaking and why it was so important to be able to make like watches that were accurate over long periods of time in different environments, hot, cold, like all that kind of stuff, anti-magnetism, like is very interesting. And I feel like there's drama there too.
Yeah, for sure. Read Longitude.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah.
Touches on all of it.
Yeah.
All right. So the last thing, Zach, we wanted to talk about was a mix of an article that you wrote about an experience and an experience we both had that has not been written about yet. And that was seeing the film F1. But then you also
people
went...
have written about F1. We haven't written about
We
F1,
haven't, yes.
But
yes.
Much ink has been spilled about Joseph Kaczynski's F1 the movie. Yeah, so I was invited by the H Moser team to attend the Montreal F1 race, the Canada Grand Prix in Montreal, with them a few weeks ago. They have a pair of new watches that they've kind of made in collaboration with the team that they sponsor, the Alpine racing team. In particular, I spent quite a bit of time wearing the Mechanics Edition Pioneer watch, which is essentially a smartwatch that's sort of like timed to alert members of the Alpine crew of like very specific like events related to the race, like the timing of like practice laps and qualifying, and of course like events during the race. I'm kind of I don't really know a whole lot about F1, but it turns out, unsurprisingly, there's a lot of rules related to timing and like what you can and can't do, like with a car at certain times. Like there's like there are like designated times where the crew can like work on a car, and then they have to stop and no one can touch it, and if they do, there are fines. It all seemed very arcane to me, but it's the rules are meant to like level the playing field and to make the playing field as even as possible, because there's so much money involved that these teams spend. It was really actually like quite interesting. I learned a lot about the sport that I wasn't aware of. So yeah, saw the race. Or not the race. I saw some qualifying and practice. It had a really cool F1 experience. It's very, very loud, which is the thing that everyone says, but they say that because it's true. It's just like indescribably loud and like impressive, and just like an incredible sensory experience. And I really started to understand like why people kind of like get obsessed with this, because there's just like so much to dive into. It's so complicated. The teams are huge. Like there's really like upwards of 1,000 people kind of like involved week to week, like on a team doing any number of things. And the production is like just a massive thing, like to put on an F1 race. It's like, it reminded me of Watches and Wonders in some way. It's like this kind of like temporary like circus that just kind of like goes from like city to city. It's just crazy. It was a really really cool experience.
You're an F1 person, right?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. Alpine, not the best team in the world, not the worst. And
they did not have a great week in Montreal.
No. I don't think they have a lot of great weeks.
Yeah.
No offense,
I like
Alpine.
the production cars, which are unrelated.
Oh yeah. None of the F1 cars look like production cars.
Yeah, I know.
They all look a little crazy. Yeah, I would love to go to a race. I don't know. It's interesting because like I can't imagine they're actually using this watch functionally during the race. Did they say that they were?
So they didn't in Montreal, because they had apparently like a customs issue, like getting the watches like shipped from Europe to Canada. But the idea is that they will use them, and like you will see folks in the crew using these watches. And as we were wearing them, they had samples for media and for like Moser's guests. They didn't have them for the crew.
Yeah.
But like they do kind of like notify you of important things, and like I can imagine that they would be useful. I talk about this in the article, I imagine an Apple Watch could do a lot of the same things. Like it's just they're synchronized alarms. It's not like crazy new technology or anything. But it's a lot of exposure for Moser, and as mentioned, like there's so much money involved in these things. It's important. I mean, it's capitalism. It's trying to.
Well, it's so interesting. Like when the races end, the podium, the folks who place high enough to be on the podium, which is first through third place, they all get out of their car. They have to get weighed. There's like all these regulations around weight. But like they immediately, once they can take their kit off and all that stuff, they immediately go and put their hat on and put their watch on. Like there's a podium for the winners with like their hat, a bottle of water, and the watch. And it's like whatever the official sponsor is of that team. And I just think it's interesting that watches have like become part of that trifecta. You know what I mean? Like, and probably the least essential of the trifecta, hats, sun, water, hydration, watches, Who
just
knows?
the ever-present motion of time.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
That's a good segue, though, into the film, because I got to see an early screening via IWC, who's a major sponsor of the film. They are, in the entire film, there are a lot of IWCs. You do not forget that they are like the primary sponsor of this film. And I mean, good for them. It is like very impressive product placement, from every wrist to every helmet and everything else. And there's a lot of like watch focus moments that, as a watch person, you notice. Like Brad Pitt will take his glowing watch and put it on the nightstand, and he'll just show it glowing for a moment. You know, that's totally an unnecessary shot, especially in a 2-hour and 36-minute long film.
Yeah.
You know, they could have been edited
Quite
down
long.
a little bit, but not that, you know. I'll say it's the best movie about F1 I've seen this year.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I was pretty entertained by
It's very
F1.
entertaining, yeah.
I saw it in IMAX. Like I think the day after it opened, like in a big theater with a big crowd. Everyone seemed really into it. There were people like in our screening. This wasn't an IWC screen. This was just like a normal kind of like public, you know, screening that I went to, and like there were people like dressed in their like F1 gear, like
Wow.
you know, at this screening. So, yeah, people were into it. There's a lot of there are a lot of watches to look at. I will say, in the conversations with friends who are not like part of the watch community that I've had after the seeing the movie, about the movie, like watches don't really come up. So like I don't know how much like penetration like there really is there. But yeah, like there's like you said, Zach, you never forget that IWC is involved. Like you literally see their logo on the uniforms that that Brad Pitt and his teammates are wearing throughout the film. There's probably literally an IWC watch in every scene of the movie if you stop and like think about it. Yeah.
Also, Hans Zimmer is the
Yeah.
you know, the score of the movie, and he's an IWC
ambassador,
ambassador.
Because I didn't Tag Heuer sign the official sponsorship to be like the timekeeper of the races. I could be making that up, but I think they're the clocks that are throughout the race.
That's right.
But not when they were filming this, because they do
Yeah, it
show
was-
Rolex clocks.
Okay,
Yeah,
they
it
were the
was-
former.
Yeah, it was Rolex for quite a while, and Tag Heuer is the new official
Yeah.
timekeeper. Of
I was gonna
F1,
ask, did they show the Rolex clocks in the movie? Like they showed other brands.
They didn't show their watches. They showed the
Right.
clock. There's a really funny moment early on in the film where somebody tries to give Brad Pitt a watch, and you can see it's a green box. And
Yeah.
He says, "No, I don't need it. I already have a watch."
Really?
Yeah, because he
Interesting.
wins the 24 hours at Daytona race. His team wins that
Spoiler.
race, and like famously, well, it happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie. But you're right; it's spoiler for the first 10 minutes of F1. And the winner of that race, the winning team in that race, they get the Rolex Daytona, engraved. And so yeah, that's like a real, borrowed from real life moment in the movie.
That's cool.
That's cool. Well, Zach, I think we have to say goodbye because we promised an unboxing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
We're running on almost an hour already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'll tune in for the unboxing once I get up. But thanks for having me. It's good to see you guys, and I'll see you both in Chicago very soon.
very soon. Yeah,
See you, Zach.
there.
Thanks.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
See ya. Yeah, I'm very excited for this.
Okay. Close
I
your
get
eyes.
to take this thing out too.
Yeah.
Wow, what a relief.
Yeah. I was hearing an echo of my voice that whole time. If
Yeah.
I was talking really slowly, it's because I was extremely confused.
Same. We're new to
Look,
this. We're
tweaking,
figuring it
we're
out.
tweaking.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Close your eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have here the new Tudor Black Bay 54 Blue Lagoon. I've had a chance to see it. I actually shot a video with it earlier, but Blake has not seen it.
Not in person.
Okay. Open your eyes. Did that work? Was that a good unveiling?
Yeah, I hate it.
Wow. Wow. Honest opinions. Look.
No, I
we
don't
did.
hate it. Hate's a strong word. I don't like it. I didn't like the images on the internet that I saw. I don't like the polished bezel. It's just a polished bezel. I just don't like it. I think if they had done I don't know, if they had done any other interesting treatment to the bezel, I could have gotten more behind it. But
The polished
can't
bezel
see
is
it.
a lot.
you can't read it. Like you can't read what's on the bezel. It's gonna get scuffed up like crazy. Which like this doesn't feel like it's intended to be a rugged version of this watch. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. Like it's not. This isn't. Yeah, the bezel's not it. But it's a cool blue color. I like the blue color and the texture, and the bracelet's really nice. But I'm not a fan. This is not it for me.
Like, I agree, it's not for me. And I think like once the initial sort of shock of them releasing it wore off, because, well, spoiler for the other video, you know, Tudor does what you don't expect them to do, and this was certainly an unexpected move. What I kind of like about it, though, conceptually, is sort of like the Black Bay 58 Silver, is that they're willing to sort of push the boundaries of what we consider to be a Black Bay.
Yeah.
And that maybe this is a sign that they are going to be more risky, you know, more risk-taking in the future, which I'm all for. You know, they're not as conservative as their sibling brand, obviously Rolex, but they still can be conservative in their own way.
Yeah.
Not the watch I wish they came out with this time, but you know, I already have a Black Bay 54, so I'm cool.
Yeah.
You know?
So the 54 means that it's how big is this
37.
one? I haven't put a 54 on, I don't think. On the bracelet.
I guess mine
Yeah, no, it doesn't fit my wrist. And I will say that the size of this and the bracelet is scratching a lot of itches.
Yeah.
It's I had a Batman for a little while on the Jubilee, and it just was a little big for me, and it didn't like jive. But this like feels like it would be much more comfortable to wear. Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't like to say I hate it. I don't hate it, but the polished bezel is not for me. Do you know? Are they marketing this as like a women's watch? Are they doing that?
They're leaning into it being a more feminine watch, I would say,
Yeah.
and like a lot of their marketing and press materials show it on women,
Yeah.
and in a sort of like beach environment, like not in like a sports environment, but they do also show it on men. And anecdotally, I know of 2 guys who have purchased them themselves, so it's definitely a unisex watch. But I think in terms of their purpose of making this, I do think it is to access more of more women with this watch, because the 37 millimeter is such a unisex size that it's just easy to wear, I think, on most wrists. And actually, if you have a smaller wrist, it's like a nice sportier size.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I guess I would also say that sometimes brands will like design a product or a watch, and I'm like, that's a bad design decision. To my opinion, like, you made a poor decision in the design of that product. I don't think that's what this is. I just think this is something that's not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like, it went drastically in a certain direction. It's not for me, but like, I don't think it's like a poorly composed watch. Like, it all makes sense, and like, if you're into it, like, I don't think you have bad taste. You know what I mean?
The polished bezel, though, is sort of a step away from functionality, which is...
Yeah, and I feel like there's just other, and I'm not going to be able to come up with any ideas off the top of my head, but like, if you were looking for a more novel bezel treatment that maybe is a little bit blingier, or just like kind of playing a little bit counter to sort of the rugged toolness of a dive watch, like polish, like you could have picked something other than polish.
I mean, it could have been like a relief bezel, like a yacht master kind of a style thing. I mean, they're already going away from Canon here, so do whatever you want. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really crazy, like, seeing this watch, like a 54 in hand that actually has a bracelet size. Like, it's perfect. It's the perfect size. Like, it's the closest thing, in terms of like that sort of Goldilocks sweet spot as like that I think about with my Polar, for example. Like, this feels a lot closer to that than like when we looked at the Black Bay Pro together on that review. Like, they feel like worlds apart in terms of feel. But this feels much closer to that. Yeah. Very cool.
Well, excellent. Available now, $4,350 if you're looking for the ultimate summer ready Black Bay 54. Now you have that choice.
Yeah. You gotta get it for the summer.
Yeah.
If you show up to the beach without this, what kind of loser are you?
If we had more time, I kind of wanted your opinion on like the light blue thing. Is this trend gone too far? Are we done with it? The Tiffany blue kind of a thing. I'm a bit ready for it to end. I've seen a lot of brands. I feel like it crested, it came back, and it was cresting again. I've seen a lot of them lately.
Well, I mean, what makes a classic color and what makes like a trendy color? Like,
it's like style versus fashion, you know? It's like...
Yeah, but like, is the Tiffany blue, like, is it getting into that zone of like... Because it's different than when you would go to Basel and it's like, oh, everybody has a green dial watch, or everybody, you know, or like we've talked a lot about stone dials, like everybody has a stone dial watch now. And it's like, are those like iconic treatments or are they fads? And like, I don't know, maybe the Tiffany blue vibe feels a little bit more classic.
It's like if the navy blue is to black, then this is to white, kind of like the ice blue. Tiffany blue is probably not fair to say. That actually has a little bit more green in it, plus trademarked, you know. But yeah, I've just seen a lot of them. Maybe I'm ready. I'm ready to see less. I also, this is gonna sound maybe very strange. Whatever. I really like the way that sort of like blingy, louder, like, or maybe more like luxury watches look on like people with tattoos. Like there's that juxtaposition. Like I always think it's interesting, like when you just see somebody with like a full sleeve wearing like a gold watch or something like that. Like I think it just something about the contrast of the colors or something like works really well. So I'm like surprised how much I actually like this on my wrist. But I'm not going to get one. So. Well, there you have it.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. Like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And we will see you probably from Chicago. We're going to try and figure out how to do this there. No promises, technically speaking. But if not, probably the week after.
Yeah. Thanks.